All right, well, after weeks of no change, petrol and diesel prices in India have been hiked by rupees 3 per litre. This comes as state-run companies are facing mounting losses due to the sharp rise in global crude oil prices. This also comes after the Prime Minister's appeal to not buy gold for a year and limit the use of petrol and diesel to fight the impact of a war in the Middle East, which includes the choke oil supply in the Strait of Hormuz. While any hike in fuel price pinches every Indian, it is the smallest price rise increase among major economies. For example, this is a 3 to 4% hike compared to US, which has witnessed a 18 to 22% hike. China, which has seen a 30 to 35% hike, and United Kingdom, which has hiked prices up to 4%. Also, the rupees 3 fuel hike in retail prices comes after almost 4 years of steady retail prices. But the big questions are: number one, is the government going to stop at rupees 3 fuel price hike, or are distributors looking at further hikes? Number two, how long do we expect the choke on oil to continue, and how do we prepare for its drastic measures? And number three, after months of holding steady, is India prepared to face the worst impact of the war in the Middle East? We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Dr. Sharad Kohli, economist. Mr. Yogendra Kapoor, economist as well, joins us on the show, and Mr. Rajneesh Kumar joins us on the platform as well. Dr. Kohli, I'll begin with you. Well, like I said in my opening monologue, is this going to be the end of the hike, or looking at the situation, the worsening situation in the Middle East, and Donald Trump not flinching when it comes to all the Iranian demands, this war could go on? What does this mean for India? This is just the fuel hike. There are subsequent costs now which will be affected as a result of this as well.
Good evening, Vineet. To you, viewers, fellow economists, chartered accountant, panelists, you have a very interesting panel today. Everybody seems to be having qualification of a chartered accountant, which is very interesting because it is about taxes, it is about oil. I think the big man called Donald Trump has the answer to your question. Well, he's barricaded the Strait of Hormuz, and I don't know for how long he's barricaded that, and he's moving around to get it open. I don't know who he has to get it open from. Now his dialogue to Iran should be, "Ye uranium mujhe de de Thakur." That's what he's looking forward to as far as uranium is concerned. Now it is up to him. And as far as India is concerned, the Petroleum Ministry, Finance Ministry, Prime Minister's Office, Government of India, Reserve Bank of India, I think there is an hour by hour monitoring of crude prices going on. So to answer your question, whether is this the first of many? Is this the last one? Is it just one off after 4 years? The answer lies in Strait of Hormuz. Or shall I say, answer lies in crude oil prices. They are hovering around 106 to 107 right now. They had gone up to 126. They came down below 100. They've been bouncing like a crazy ball. And this whole game of yes and no between Iran and US, proposals, counter proposals, prastavs, counter prastavs. He wants that, they want that, he wants that. I think this is the world has been made into a tennis ball. Or shall I say, the world economy has been made to look like a tennis ball being tossed over from this here to there. Having said that, I think there are people who are grumbling. There are voices being raised on as to why this was, not reduced. I was just on another media platform. They were asking why this was not reduced earlier when the prices of crude oil were low. But when they hiked, it was passed on to the consumers. Well, the answer to that question is that whatever government collected, 40 to 45 lakh crores of collection over several years, it has been put into infrastructure. Roads, airports, highways, so much of development has taken place. That's one answer. Second, the oil marketing companies in India, Vineet, Hindustan Petroleum, Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil, who command 90% of the total share of oil distribution or petrol diesel distribution, they had collected some profit reserves which have now been eroded because they used those reserves, which is starting, ideally the prices should have gone up from 28th February onwards when the crude oil suddenly shot up. But oil marketing companies in coordination with the government did not do it. I think people of the country should be proud of the fact that when the whole world, including America, was the largest producer of oil in the world, they themselves are rattling under inflation because of energy prices. And for your information, I would like to inform Vineet that in some of the states in the US, the price have gone up from $3 a gallon to to about $5 a gallon. That's been the kind of hike. So the country that produces the biggest volume of oil has been a sufferer by itself. So India can be no exception, and I think 3 rupees is a very, very modest rise. If voices are being raised, well, the big question is this the first one? Is this the last one? It will all depend upon the crude oil. As of now, 1,000 crores a day is the under recovery being made by these oil marketing companies. And we know the impact. Even before this rise, 8.3 was the wholesale price index which came in yesterday, alarming, from 3.88 to 8.3, more than doubling. The CPI, or the consumer price index, going up to 3.48 on a 13-month high. Add to that this price rise. So I think people of the country should be prepared for a bit of a difficult time, I would say, over the next 2-3 months, because when WPI goes up, it is likely to convert to CPI in about 2 to 3 months, because WPI comprises of the manufacturing goods. So my advice to people who are listening to you and me and NewsX right now is that please start conserving resources. Listen to what the Prime Minister said. Start working from home. Do shows on Zoom like the way Vineet is doing right now. And go online, go for online classes. That is the way to go. If you keep, although I'm sitting in a car, you might ask, ironically, how come you're sitting in the car and doing the show and giving that upadesh of sitting at home? I would like to say, because I'm saying something so important to the people who are listening to us, that I can take that liberty of saying it from the car. But eventually, I think people will have to move to a lifestyle which we have seen in COVID, where people have to sit, because we have our reserves. We need, very important, our reserves are about 60 days or 50 days now, as per the Petroleum Minister Hardeep Puri. And if, God forbid, if this problem drags on for 90 days, we'll run out of reserves. And that will be a very, very precarious situation. Even the supplies can be disrupted. So I think before that happens, the Prime Minister appeal, followed by policy changes about gold, about working from home, about edible oil, about fertilizers, about all the measures that he suggested. I won't call them austerity measures. They are strategic prudence measures, which I think people should take positively, Vineet.
Absolutely. Dr. Kohli, you're totally spot on. There have been effects, all over the world, including in the United States and other countries which are large producers of crude oil. And India, a net importer of crude oil, has not passed on this liability to the consumer at large, is something commendable. Mr. Yogendra Kapoor, it's the same problem, right? It's the same issue that has plagued the rest of the world. How do you think India has been able to stay afloat for so long, despite being a net importer of crude oil?
Well, Vineet, first I would like to say that the people of our country should have a deep sigh of relief by the way and manner in which the government has increased the prices. I would say an increase of ₹3 is a very, very minuscule one, especially with, as just Sharadji rightly said, if we look at the way and manner in which the prices have increased worldwide. If we look on the West, in the United States, the prices have increased by 40%. If we look on the east side, the prices in Malaysia have gone up to 70%. So you can imagine, the kind of increase that we are witnessing right across the globe. So the point is, I would say that going forward, it's a very, very tightrope walk, and wherein I would say that the role of the Reserve Bank of India and the government will be very, very central. In terms of RBI, they will have to keep a track on the rate of inflation, because you see, in case we see the inflation pressures going up in the economy, then they will have to do something with the repo rates in order to check that aspect. Likewise, coming to the government, it's very important that they will keep a regular watch that, you see, India is largely a consumption-based economy, where we all know that 60% of our GDP comprises of consumption. So the government role at this moment would be to monitor if the level of consumption is going down on account of the increased prices. So that is where I would say that they will have to keep a regular watch and monitoring, and at the same time ensure that wherever possible, whether it is with respect to a further reduction in the excise duty or in terms of the reduction of VAT rates in states, that is where they will be able to not pass on the element of increased cost on the consumers. So far as the short run is concerned, I think this is the way forward. But if the war continues for a long period, which at the moment I would personally say that I think we should expect a solution within next 3 months, because I think now it's a situation where whether it is United States, whether it is Iran, they may be sticking to their viewpoints as such, and the very aspects in terms of their thought process, but they also feel from within that here is a situation where the world is bleeding. So and they cannot be a silent, people cannot, or the nations cannot remain silent watchers. So it is there that the pressure is going to build up to ensure that a solution is something which we should look at in the short run.
Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, what happens next? Will inflation follow now? Is that something which is going to strain the economy further?
Yeah, I see that inflation will be impacted, but my view is that rupees 3 hike is not full burden pass on. It is limited correction. If prices were remain fully market linked, increase would have been much higher, like it would have been rupees 20 or 30 per litre. The government appears to have taken a middle path, not passing the entire global shock to the customer. So let us understand that India consumes around $5 million barrel per day, and we import around 85 to 90% of crude requirement from outside. If the price in international market increases by nearly 50-60%, it is very essential for the oil marketing companies to pass on the burden. Now the burden has to go somewhere. There are three options. One, consumer pays. Second is the government cuts excise duty, taxes, provides subsidies. And third, oil marketing companies absorb losses. So for some times, we are seeing that oil marketing companies are absorbing a large part of the burden. Reports indicate that around they are making losses of around 30,000 crore per month on petrol, diesel and LPG prices. So I see that this rupee 3 hike is not going to impact much as compared to that it would have become by increasing $20 per litre.
Dr. Kohli, same question for you. Well, of course, we have all agreed that 3 rupees is not much of a hike, but it still is going to be passed on to the consumer in various funnels and ways. Dr. Kohli?
Yeah, can you repeat the question, Vineet? I'm sorry.
I'm saying, well, although the hike is marginal, for the lack of a better word, it still will lead to some parameters in terms of inflation going high, as well as the funneling that happens every time such a hike is made in crude oil or oil.
Yes, because especially diesel, Vineet, has got a cascading effect. It has a rippling and a cascading effect, because when transporters, they start to pass on the load to consumers. So practically everything that you use in your life, from consumables to vegetables to groceries to even white goods, whatever that you use, you find that the cascading effect falls on the items that you consume on a day-to-day basis. So yes, diesel hike is very, very sensitive. It is also used in agriculture for that matter. So even the food grain production is impacted, because diesel is being used for irrigation as well. So I think for running the pump sets, so equipment. So I think diesel for me is a very, very touchy point where we have to be careful. I think this can be negated, I feel, Vineet, by some of the states can come forward to probably neutralize this by reversing the VAT, which is being charged on fuel. So that is one way to go. But having said that, if this 3 rupees converts to a higher amount in the times to come, because of Strait of Hormuz continue to remain in the status it is in, then of course it's going to be a pain for our economy, which is already experiencing. And we should not forget Prime Minister's appeal, which had the common thread of preservation of the forex reserves, whether it was not buying gold, not making excessive travel, avoiding destination when for no reason, for holidays and so and so. I think all that is meant to conserve resource. Something applied to crude oil. I mean, not work from home, virtual classes, online classes, virtual meetings. These are the measures which can be taken for preservation of crude oil and precious foreign exchange as well. So you not just save the foreign exchange, you also limit the rupee slide. I think rupee slide has been a big pain point. It is getting closer to rupees 96 for a dollar, which is becoming a pain point for the country because it is making our current account deficit rise. It is making our import bill shoot up. I think that is where we need to keep a watch on in the days to come, Vineet.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Kapoor. The falling rupee is also bringing its own set of problems, isn't it? India has also slid down when it comes to the top global economies in the world. How is that rate likely to get worse with what's happening in the Middle East?
Well, Vineet, I would say that as of now, I would say Reserve Bank of India has been able to do a wonderful job in terms of managing the depreciation of the rupee to a very large extent. And ultimately, we all understand that it is something which is connected and related to the market forces where, you can push or control the things to a point. But beyond that, it's something that, it has to make sense. If we look at from the import point of view, yes, it's hurting our country. When we look at the amount of imports, the dependency on imports which we are witnessing, which has literally doubled in last 5 years. So it's important that, once we are seeing because of this supply chain disruption, that the logistical cost is increasing, and at the same time, the depreciation of rupee is adding to the further, the cost of final landing of that product, in resulting in a higher cost as such. So I think in this regard, this is one way of looking at it. At the same time, if you will see that the RBI has done a good job in terms of wherever possible, and here I feel that they can still do further, a better job by relaxing the external commercial borrowing rules and regulations, so that more of foreign remittances are being able to receive in our country. We already are witnessing that India is among the top nation in terms of the foreign remittances being received as such. So I think it's a tough, way forward for RBI as such. But in the times to come, I think it's important that the government and RBI will have to work in sync on this.
Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, do you think there will ever be a point in terms of the holdback that economies are supposed to do, and the holdback that the Prime Minister has also suggested, that we will have days which are going to be similar to COVID?
Yes, obviously, we see that it is coming, because we see that rupee is depreciated, and rupee is now the worst performing currency of Asia. So if we consider that the highest import in India, so India incurs around 160 to 170 billion dollar on crude, 60 to 70 billion dollar on gold, and 18 to 20 billion dollar on edible oils. So if we follow the suggestions of Prime Minister, if we suppose that if we defer the oil import, gold import by 1 year, our economy will be impacted and will be benefited. But in coming days, I'm sure that the rising crude prices and inflation will force us to go some offline or some work from home type of culture, which we have seen in COVID era.
Dr. Kohli, what's your opinion? Is that a likelihood, or do you think there's...
Vineet, sorry. Please complete your question. Sorry.
No, that's it. Do you have a different view, Dr. Kohli, or are we headed down that same path?
I think I have a very interesting suggestion to make, and since I have my fellow chartered accountants sitting here, they would be able to understand better than anybody else, and so would the viewers be. You know, the three oil marketing companies, Hindustan Oil, Hindustan Petroleum, Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil, they are listed in stock markets. Primarily government owned, but then partly disinvested, and people hold shares. Now, typically for a company which is listed in stock markets, it's required every quarter for it to declare results. That we all know. It's mandatory. Now, are these companies profit-making companies? If yes, what my suggestion is that government should buy back the shares and make them as wholly owned PSUs like the way they were before. And the government should take away all the shares from people and let them be for social service. That's my suggestion. Or government should completely disinvest, which it, of course it won't do, and where these companies are allowed to have a free run, which is not the case. So my suggestion is that this dilemma of these companies functioning for profit or for social service, this should be removed once and for all, because this raises eyebrows from the opposition that these companies are having a free market run, or these companies are controlled because of elections and other things. So that's my suggestion. I think government should buy back the shares and completely control these companies so that government is able to regulate and make sure these companies work for social service. They should just break even, so they don't try and recover profits from people of the country. At the same time, wherever there is a loss, government can always absorb the loss the way it is doing right now. That's the suggestion I wanted to make, Vineet. I'm not sure, it's a very tough one to take. But then if this is implemented, it will clear out a lot of cloud which is collecting around the way these oil marketing companies function. Vineet.
Fair enough, sir. Although we've run out of time, I appreciate everybody who joined in and weighed in on this extremely volatile and precarious economic situation throughout the world. We'll take a short break now. Be right back.